Superficial, unrealistic rigor is atrocious. Yet so many education reformers propose this. If you drill them hard enough, you'll stay upon their toes. As superficial, unrealistic rigor is atrocious. Rigor, 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 rigor. We shouldn't be afraid to speak when policies seem bad. We have the best democracy the world has ever had. Why do they keep on scolding us on how we run our class? Take those mandates and those tests and help us stay on task. Oh, superficial, unrealistic rigor is atrocious. What qualifies you to be the education Moses? Testing is not teaching. We don't buy the mass hypnosis. Superficial, unrealistic rigor is atrocious. Rigor, 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 rigor. We knew this child named Billy. His life had not been kind. He was a child destined to be left far, far, far behind. A caring teacher came one day and reached this little boy. Now reading, writing, arithmetic is this lad's pride and joy. Oh, super teachers always know connection is where hope is. Let them guide their classrooms with a student-centered focus. Please untie their hands and lose the data, hocus pocus. Super teachers always know connection is where hope is. Real rigor, 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 real rigor, 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 real rigor, 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 rigor. Super teachers always know connection is where hope is. Super teachers always know connection is where hope is. If you're feeling sad, we hope this keynote will help you cope with superficial, unrealistic rigor that's atrocious. Thank you. Super teachers always know connection is where hope is. My name's Barry Lane, and today's keynote is going to be about that. What we learned in the plague year we've just been through. And I decided to do my keynote speech as an actual keynote. The word keynote actually refers to music. And why is a keynote speech called a keynote speech? Why isn't it just called a speech? Well, turns out the metaphor is a key. Music is in a key. You could play in a major key like C major or a minor key. And when someone gives a speech, they have to decide what key that speech is going to be in, what the theme that's going to run from the beginning to the end will be like. And I think all of us could agree this last year was a lot of minor notes and a few major notes here and there. And as we pull out of this, hopefully, as a country, as a society, as a world, as a species, I think one of the things that it's important to note is, what did we learn? What happened this last year? What did we learn about ourselves? What did we learn about our community? What did we learn about our world? And what did we learn about what teaching actually is? I think that's something that on the news in different places you hear people talking about learning loss, that somehow kids missed a whole year of their education. Oh no, the world's going to end. But then when you think about that, those people don't actually realize that they've insulted teachers, because there hasn't been learning loss. Maybe some kids didn't learn some things the way they usually learned it, but in many schools, in many places, kids are actually even learning more about themselves, about their world, about their community, and about who they are as individuals. And I would say that kind of learning is a kind of learning that didn't always happen in school, in quote-unquote normal school. So one of the things I want to do in this speech is just ask you to reflect on what you learned in this last year. I made a little movie with the class and some friends that I'm going to show you at the end of this speech about just a few things that these teachers learned during this year, this challenging year, I should say. And one of the things that I wanted to share with you is a song I wrote before the pandemic. And before the pandemic, I wrote this song called Pajama Day. And I wanted to, in the song, point out how when a reading and writing workshop is going well, there's something that actually happens. It has kind of a flow of its own. And the students are writing regularly on topics of choice. They're reading on topics of choice or books that they want to read, and are able to discuss what their characters are going through in that book, and just relate to things in the world. In school, although reading and writing could be considered work, is more like play. And I wanted to evoke in the song a school where you come as you are, and then you find out who you are. I gave a keynote speech, a TED Talk a few years ago, and on the TED Talk it's called Vigor, not rigor. Schools should be dream-driven, not data-driven. And in that speech, I talked about Frederick Winslow Taylor, the late 19th century systems analyst who created scientific management. And he created this idea that they'd have a master plan, which works great in steel factories and in Starbucks, and you give the master plan, and everybody becomes an implementer of that plan. But the reality is, teaching does not function that way. You can give a curriculum to a teacher, but the teacher is the one who's actually connecting that to their students. They're not following like some lockstep program or plan. The best teaching is intuitive and has a level of interpersonal connection to it. And so anyway, in this song, I wanted to create the feeling of that school where every day is pajama day. And I want to dedicate this to the teachers out there who, in this very challenging time, were able to find new ways of connecting with their students. I should say the super teachers who always know connection is where hope is. Hey, that was my other song. So this is called Pajama Day. Don't get dressed for school today, just jump right out of bed. Put on your socks, forget the shoes, don't comb that sleepy head. Where this is not a normal day, don't need the normal clothes. Go to the screen with everyone, and the whole world will know. It's pajama day, it's pajama day. It's not a llama day, it's pajama day. It's pajama day. Do you wanna play? Be my friend and say, it's pajama day. We can all be astronauts and journey to the stars. Or maybe we just need some time to find out who we are. We all forgot to dress for school. It's silly, but it's real. We'll ask some questions, read some books, and tell you how we feel. It's pajama day. It's pajama day. It's not a llama day. It's pajama day. It's pajama day. Do you wanna play? Be my friend and say, it's pajama day. It's fun to live in PJs. We'll learn more when we play. Who are you? Who have you been? What do you have to say? Our teacher's in her nightgown. She's a member of our team. We're reading and we're writing, uncovering our dreams. It's fun to work together and sing this happy tune. Can we make this feeling last from September till June? It's pajama day. It's pajama day. It's not a llama day. It's pajama day. It's pajama day. Do you wanna play? Be my friend and say, It's pajama day. It's fun to live in PJs. We learn more when we play. Who are you? Where have you been? What do you have to say? It's pajama day. It's pajama day. It's not llama day. It's pajama day.
First-hand mentorship in communication, digital literacy, however you want to call it. Teacher-guided everyday routine of communication in a chat box, in a Zoom or a Google Meet, a private message to a teacher or a peer, commenting under an assignment in Google Classroom. How am I writing this in a document? All of the different modes of communication, when your fingers hit keys, where are they going and how is it going into that? Am I writing a complete sentence? Am I writing a one-word answer? Reaction, right? Action, reaction, every day, constantly. Getting into a rhythm and a routine of how do I respond? Thinking first, writing, thinking, writing. Every day, mentorship. It's communication mentorship. And that is a major positive.
I have been, since school began, I have been wearing school t-shirts and school spirit gear. And there was one student of mine who noticed one day that I wasn't wearing a t-shirt that represented the school or something related to school spirit. And she said, Miss M, you, what's going on? What's happening? I look to you for, some normalcy. And so I make it my business to now wear something every day that represents the school, because building relationships is really important to me. And I think that this student pointed out something that I was not aware of, that they need this normalcy in this time. So thank you so much.
Mahatma Gandhi said, "In the midst of darkness, light persists." On May 5th, 2020, countless elementary teachers from the Ansonia Public Schools rallied in our high school parking lot to see students and families in a car parade. This was a special event for all who attended and a beautiful representation of the light that came out of the darkness of the COVID pandemic. How grateful I am to work with those who still keep the world moving, teachers. The car parade was the light of human connection and relationships, which are central to the work of teaching and learning, regardless of whether it happens in or out of school. Teachers were able to keep literacy as a top priority by navigating new technologies. Literacy was a powerful way to help teachers maintain connection in their relationships in a virtual classroom. Reading books from digital libraries became an effective way to escape into fiction fantasy or learn something new from nonfiction. Talking about books through Flipgrid videos maintained student relationships with one another. Interactive writing with the Jamboard Google extension maintained class connection, and Nearpod literacy lessons allowed for student voice and collaboration on learning. So what have we learned? The teachers keep on teaching. Learning never stops. Connections and relationships are vital. Teachers are the light, the hope, the way education emerges from the darkness of the COVID pandemic.
When the world shut down, most teachers, students, and families thought, how can we do this? How can we teach and learn without our classrooms and on a computer screen? Not only were there concerns about learning, but also emotional, physical, and mental health. No one knew that what we were facing or how to persevere through it. Well, here we are a year later, and we can see the resilience and strength that we didn't realize we had. Teachers had to adapt and change to a new way of teaching. No longer were there read-alouds while students sat on the carpet and turned and talked with their neighbor. No longer were there small group discussions with students sitting face-to-face. Students had to adapt to sitting in rows 6 feet apart, wearing masks, and not being able to share materials or sit in close proximity to their friends. They had to adhere to a rigid school schedule, all while sitting in their bedrooms. But we all adapted and learned and grew. My students developed a new appreciation for school and a love of learning. They light up every time they enter the classroom. Their most cherished parts of the school day are listening to a read aloud and sharing their ideas while 6 feet from their peers. They beg to meet with their book clubs every day because they want to discuss the events that unfolded in their most recent chapter. The COVID-19 pandemic took a lot from us. It took our sense of routine, normalcy, safety, and security. But it also gave to us. It gave us an appreciation for others, an appreciation for interactions, discussions, and routine. These are many of the points of light that we gained despite the world being changed forever.
Can say that we're the same as we were before COVID. What I hope and what gives me hope, though, is that we're better people. The forced seclusion of COVID-19 made me seek out poetry. Each poem became a point of light for me. It was good for my soul. Beautiful, joyful, peaceful, inspiring, and it was honest, like this one. Any other May. If it were any other May, I'd wrap myself in the orange neon of a male oriole. But with another day in quarantine, I've become the spun gray paper of a hornet's nest. What happened this past year was unprecedented. Yet, when there's no precedent, there's opportunity for innovation. I saw teachers recreating their classrooms, reaching out to students, supporting one another, encouraging parents, learning and using new technologies, and finding ways to limit the isolation that the screens imposed on all of us. And most importantly, I saw teachers falling back on their can-do attitude over and over. It was labor, but it was a labor of love, and it makes me think that each teacher is a point of light.
For his entire life, Matt struggled with consistency and comfortability in a school setting because of his seizure disorder. Each day, Matt approached his day not knowing what his day would hold. This caused a lot of angst and worry for Matt in school and caused him to struggle in many academic areas, especially reading and writing. When the pandemic hit and distance learning was an option, Matt's family decided for him to learn from home in hopes to alleviate some of his stress. For the past 7 months, Matt has live streamed into the classroom and formed great relationships with his peers. For the past 7 months, Matt has not had one single seizure. As Matt's mom puts it, despite this pandemic turning the world upside down for so many, it has shown them the light they have so desperately needed. Matthew's engagement, excitement, and desire to learn have grown tremendously during these trying times. His love for reading has been rediscovered, and his passion for learning is back. Matt has been so involved in his literacy lessons and the novel Chains that once they finished reading the book, his mom went out and bought an entire classroom set of the next book in the series for his class to read. Matt has approached the challenge of distance learning head on, and the outcome is phenomenal. Not only has his literacy progress soared, but he has been seizure-free for the longest time in his life. Despite these difficult times educators have been faced, it's no surprise that each and every one of them has risen to the occasion to continue to provide opportunities for their students to be successful. It is no surprise that educators have come together to collaborate, lean on one another, and do what they do best.
Spent almost the entire year in my classroom with my students. As you can imagine, it's been quite challenging keeping 16 4-year-olds 6 feet apart. My students, most of my toys are in storage. I have 8 tables in my classroom, each with 2 students sitting on either end. They each have their own materials, their own busy boxes. Most of the time, stories are read with students at their seat using a document camera and the smart board. There's a constant flurry of hand washing and hand sanitizing. Yeah, in this strange preschool environment, I see light shining everywhere. I have witnessed a student who mostly communicated through sign language at the beginning of the year string 3 and 4 words together. I've witnessed a nonverbal student make eye contact and listen to every word that I'm reading when I'm reading a story. The student is now beginning to answer questions with signs. I've watched in utter amazement as 16 preschoolers sat at their tables using their busy boxes and dry erase boards and were happy. I have seen my students progress with their concept of print skills and learn to make sounds wearing masks. My students are happy, they're having fun, and they're learning.
There's only 4 areas that actually differentiate the best from the worst teachers. That all of the research on emotional intelligence and on characteristics and behaviors can actually be boiled down to those 4. And I've done that in various research.
And what are those 4?
The first one is how the teacher sees him or herself, self-perceptions. Some people would call it self-concept, some people would call it empathy, some people would call it unconditional positive regard. I would call it the ability to identify with other people, the ability to include other people in one's notion of him or herself, to feel connected to other people and to feel there's a bond, even if you haven't met the person, that there's a bond. The Dalai Lama would say, that I feel as if I know all of you. And that openness to the humanness of other people is the first one. The second one is an innate belief that everybody, as long as they're breathing, they can learn, grow, and develop. Even folks who others have given up on, the best teachers have this naivete about them, where they say, no, there's got to be something good in there. And for some people, like me when I was a kid, for some people it requires a lot. It's like medicine. You don't just take one dose. You have to complete the entire prescription before you start to feel better. And you need a teacher who's willing to keep applying the medicine, even when kids resist it, because kids who have had difficult experiences in their lives have big shells, and so they'll resist. Even they won't trust people to say, yeah, you're really here to help me. I don't think so. The third one is a general purpose, a general frame of mind that always looks at the big picture. They know at the end of the day, at the end of the lesson, at the end of the schooling, your job is to leave the person, a better neighbor, a better citizen, a better world citizen, someone who can be responsible for themselves and others, and keep their eye on the prize, and not get caught up in the distractors that are so evident in everybody's life. And then the last one is it's all about learning relationships. It's all about people. And the best teachers know that their most important job is building a relationship with the students that's a comfortable place for both of them to experiment, to grow, to risk, to fail. It's always about people, and it's never about things.
Talk with me, look me in the eye, tell me how you feel. We will laugh and cry. We'll tell stories straight from the heart. When we sit together, we'll never stand apart. Put down the phone so we can be alone. Don't need a screen to be seen. Talk with me, look me in the eye, tell me how you feel. We will laugh and cry. We'll tell stories straight from the heart. When we sit together, we'll never stand apart. Together we'll remember what is true. Take the time to find the best in me and you. Talk with me, look me in the eye. Tell me how you feel, we will laugh and cry. We'll tell stories straight from the heart. When we sit together, we'll never stand apart. When we sit together, we'll never stand apart. Talk with me.